The saying, good help is hard to find, truly applies these days. Businesses are having a hard time hiring workers, and cities are too. Hiring managers say there are several reasons for the worker shortage. Unemployment benefits are bringing in more money than wages in some cases. Child care issues and COVID-19 concerns are other factors too. Reporter Sonia Goen shows us how the worker shortage is impacting hiring in the city of Plymouth.
Plymouth is known for its pristine parks and beautiful ball fields. Seasonal and temporary workers are responsible for maintaining the public spaces.
We have 67 ball fields that we maintain.
In a typical year, the Plymouth Park and Recreation Department would hire 23 seasonal workers and about 8 temporary positions.
This year, April 1st, we had 4 people actually show up.
Brian Schwartzer is the park's supervisor and says hiring picked up in recent weeks, but the numbers aren't where they should be.
So we actually contracted more of our lawn mowing out.
The city raised the pay to attract more applicants this summer.
We're starting our seasonals off at $17 an hour. It's a good seasonal job that they can come back year after year.
Honestly, it's a great group of people, and we have a lot of fun.
The Parks Department is stretched thin because of the worker shortage.
It's amazing that we can't find the seasonal work right now because I have a blast every day.
Staff on hand will have to work longer hours and much harder to get everything done.
The mowing may not get done every 5 to 7 days as normal. It might be 7 to 10 days.
And over here at the arena, they're skating on thin ice. Officials are desperate to hire at least 10 part-time workers.
This is the first I've seen of this.
The manager of the Plymouth Ice Center says it's been extremely difficult this year to attract applicants.
We're maybe getting one applicant every 2 to 3 weeks, and they don't always pan out.
Plymouth Ice Center is paying more this year to lure potential employees, with wages topping out at over $17 per hour.
You won't see that in many other ice arenas right now.
Full-time staff is flexing their hours to cover busy times during the evenings and weekends, but management says they can't do this for much longer.
Right now it's a Band-Aid to fix this, but to sustain it, that would require us to keep increasing our ice rental rates.
And if they don't get more workers soon, officials might consider shortening the time the facility is open.
Once we get to the end of July and August, it could get really desperate because we'll have a tournament every single weekend through the month of August.
Ice Center officials say people use the facility year-round, and they don't want to reduce hours.
We want to be a reasonably priced facility. We provide a service for all the kids in this community. We want this to be their facility.
In Plymouth, Sonia Goins, CCX News.
During the last session, the Minnesota House took steps toward expanding the state's medical marijuana law. One representative who has been working on cannabis legislation for the past several years is Mike Freiberg from Golden Valley. I sat down to talk to Representative Freiberg this week for our Newsmaker segment. Representative Mike Freiberg joins us now. The session just wrapped up. How do you feel about how things turned out?
It's never exactly pretty, but they were able to reach sort of a broad agreement on budget targets. There are still quite a few details to be worked out. We were already going to have a special session in mid-June, so that's probably when this will all get addressed. So I'm glad there's general agreement. It sounds like a pretty good agreement that I can certainly live with. So, it would have been nice if it ended on time, but this has kind of become the new normal.
It has. Now, you've worked on several issues regarding cannabis over the past few years. How do you see the attitudes changing in a lot of those discussions?
It's definitely changing. There's definitely more acceptance of it. I've always sort of felt like this is something that's coming to Minnesota. It's now legal in multiple states. So I've always sort of felt like if we're going to do it, and I assume we are because it's happening everywhere, we need to do it right. We need to do it in a way that makes sure it's not targeted at kids. It doesn't become another tobacco epidemic. And I feel like we've discussed it in a responsible fashion. There was bipartisan support for the bill. So it seems like, I know something like 60% of the Minnesotans are in favor of legalization of the adult use of cannabis. So it's starting to be reflected in the legislature, I think, with the bipartisan vote, but we still have a ways to go.
Tell us about the one that was passed.
Sure. Well, it's a good, responsible bill. It has lots of protections in there to ensure that the product won't be used by kids. Edible products can't be in a shape that's appealing to kids, so you might see gummy cubes, but you won't see gummy bears. We've also talked about flavored tobacco products this year at the legislature, so there's a provision that says a cannabis product that's intended to be smoked or vaped can't be in a flavor, and I think that will help reduce the appeal to kids. Just generally speaking, though, I mean, there's lots of criminal justice issues related to it too. I mean, African American people and Caucasian people use cannabis at the same rate currently, even though it's illegal, but there's huge disparities in the way it's prosecuted as a crime right now. So I think getting rid of prohibition will help address some of those issues too, and will just help address some of the disparities in the criminal justice system.
Sure, and we also saw some expansion as far as medical uses this time around. Is that right?
Yes. So the adult use bill, you know, it passed in the House, but it did not pass the Senate, so it's not going to become law. But I do think the discussion around it was helpful in just sort of encouraging legislators of both parties to adopt some reforms of the medical cannabis program too, because that program has been unaffordable for a lot of people. So one thing that we passed is a provision that will allow cannabis to be smoked as part of the medical program if the person is over the age of 21. So I think that'll be a lot more affordable to many people.
And finally, here's something to inspire you to go help out your own community. 2 Osseo residents take pride in their hometown by sprucing up Bourboon Park. Dave and Rosanna Garibaldi started this work 3 years ago. They did such a good job, they're now on the city's payroll.